Hello, everyone, and welcome to the SearcherCast by Greenville Ghost Tours. My name is Dustin Bays, and I'm the director of Truth Searchers Paranormal Investigators, and I will be your host alongside Gabe Mathews, certified paranormal investigator and founder of Truth Searchers Paranormal Investigators. Join Gabe, myself, and our guests as we share paranormal experiences, media, and current events. What evidence will the Truth Searchers find this time?
Hey everybody, it's another episode of the SearcherCast. I'm Gabe Mathews and here's Dustin Bays. We are the Truth Searchers, podcasting in your home, in your car, wherever you may be. Maybe you're out in space. I don't know. They have signals out there. Some aliens. If you can pick up this broadcast, definitely let us know. Because we're going to be talking about some aliens tonight is what I'm hearing. I'm excited. How's your week been, Dustin? Did I tell you I picked up a really good EVP the other day?
Really? Yeah. Hey, what's up, Gabe? What's up, searchers? Yeah. Tell me about this EVP. What was this?
Well,
EVP?
I was actually on a tour and we were in the graveyard and we asked, hey, do you have a message for anyone here tonight? And it said Emily, and this girl freaked out. And then I said, what's your message for Emily? And it said to run. And she actually had already ran away because she was kind of terrified. But we did a smudging.
You had an Emily in your party?
Yeah, and it was very clear. I wish I was recording audio or video, but we didn't capture it. But it was very clear. Everyone knew it said Emily, and then it told her to run. And so we did a smudging ritual. So hopefully the entity didn't stay with her or anything. But
oh yeah, absolutely. It sounds like you did your due diligence. Speaking of running, can we get an update on the Searcher Mobile? Have we talked about the Searcher Mobile?
We have not, but for those, I'm in the process of getting the Searcher Mobile. It's in the shop. It's getting worked on. It's been having lots of issues. Okay. And my previous car was infiltrated by a dark passenger. I really hope that entity hasn't somehow made its way to this other vehicle, because it just seems like one problem after another. But
yeah, it's a shame that P didn't tell the Searcher Mobile to run, right? Because Emily sure did. Maybe it would have kickstarted the car.
Well, I don't know if cars can run, but I guess they run. Yeah, I was thinking legs.
I was going for a joke there. Yeah, absolutely. So hey, Gabe, I want to get our guest on in here. Our guest today is an alien, an extraterrestrial, an enthusiast, expert. He is a close friend of mine and a streamer on Twitch. Please welcome to the podcast, Steely Rush. Steely Rush, welcome.
Hello, Gabe. Hello.
Hey, Steely Rush.
Hello, Dustin. How are we doing?
Great.
Yeah, we're doing great, man. We've talked a lot about aliens over the years, and I wanted to bring you on the podcast to kind of share some of your knowledge. So talk to me a little bit about let's hypothesize here for a second. Let's say Gabe Mathews has been abducted by aliens. What does that look like? What does that mean to you? When I say that, what alarms go off? What bells and whistles?
Okay, so a classic abduction usually happens at night. Usually happens during sleep for most cases. Sleep paralysis, that kind of stuff. Probably some correlations with some ghost stories there as well. I have some friends with some sleep paralysis stories. Could talk about that. Some sleep paralysis demons,
Yep, I've experienced that before.
Some of those stories have gone hand in hand. Basically, the same thing happens in the same stories from the same cases. Not all the time, but it's just some correlation there. I'm already getting off track. Sorry.
No, alien abduction is where we want to get on the track. That's the track we want to get on.
Absolutely. So a lot of people claim to hear things. So actually, I need to do a disclaimer first. I am not an expert. I am a college-educated enthusiast. My knowledge is all public knowledge. I'm not an insider. I'm not anything like that. All I can say is there's a lot of stuff to find out, and I have some directions to point. But that's we can get into that. But as far as abductions goes, there's a classic case. There's a movie about Fire in the Sky. Horrifying. Absolutely horrifying. But that's a famous case. Some
Thomas Walton.
Things about his story that Yeah,
Thomas Walton.
That's his
Yep,
name.
yep.
I couldn't remember. I couldn't remember. I appreciate
problem.
that. There's some things about his story, how they correlate with others and known things. That's a little disturbing. But the end of that and how that all ends is even more disturbing. I tend not to think about that.
And the scene from the movie where he's like abducted, that just sticks in my mind all the time. When I think of like a classic alien abduction, I can think of that it's a short scene, but it's like, if there's one scene to look at, it's this really short scene where he's like on a table kind of getting worked on by the aliens. Yeah.
Yeah. Right before that, when he wakes up, he's like almost like a cocoon-like thing. Yeah, that's very iconic. But they can go that range, as horrifying as that, to as simple as, they took me away and, I'm trying to remember a specific case, but they fixed all my depression, they fixed my, a lot of my mental health issues, and I'm not a mental health expert or anything like that, so I'm not going to make any claims or anything about those people claims. Those people's experiences are their experiences. I try and approach all of this with an open mind. I try and approach all of it with an open heart too, because as the more and more I research this topic, alien abductions ultimately turns into this discussion of UFOs and UAPs, and that's really where the meat and the heart and a lot of the subject where a lot of current events are happening right now.
No doubt there's a lot of news out there, and I actually wrote my 7th grade term paper on alien abductions. Benny and Barney Hill was like kind of the first one, and then Whitley Strieber. But one thing I was do you have a favorite alien abduction story?
A favorite one, probably Thomas Walton is the first one that comes. It's not, I can't know if I call him my favorite, but it sticks out in my mind.
For those of us who don't know the Thomas Walton story, could you give us just a quick overview?
So Thomas Walton was a lumberjack, I think, and he was bringing in lumber with his friends when they were getting done late.
There's a group of them, like 4 or 5, right? Yeah.
Yes,
so there was witnesses.
Yep.
There was witnesses to all this.
There were witnesses to the craft, I believe, and that he passed out and that he disappeared, if I have it correct.
At one point, I may be misremembering, that someone actually saw him go into the craft, the beam of light shooting on his body and taking him. I think someone had testified to that. I could be wrong, but
I think you're right. And also, one of the more interesting things is what happened after his abduction. Who showed up? What happened to him after that? His testimony that's where a lot of the classic Men in Black tropes come from, is actually that case. Now, there was some things happening like that before then, and we have some stories here and there, but that's where I think that trope really, really took off, was in the Thomas Walton case. Now,
the trope being the beam of light abduction?
The Men in Black trope, sorry.
Gotcha.
But there was also a lot of missing time in that one, which was another thing, so there was a lot of time that was not accounted for. I can't remember how many days he was actually gone missing, and then they found him again back in the woods, I believe. But yeah, there was a period of time gone, and for him it felt like instantaneous or something. But he remembers those vivid dreams, or I don't know about dreams, but actually being worked on like a by aliens.
Yeah, I think it was a significant amount of time, but for him it was a quicker amount of time. Yeah, time dilation possibly, who knows? But as far as missing time, I think Betty and Barney Hill also had missing time in their case, but I could be wrong. But that was another famous abduction.
Right, and there's actually a new documentary coming out on that actually Barack Obama is producing. I'm really excited about this. Yeah,
like the former President Barack Obama.
So adding more credibility to alien abduction stories. So
yeah,
their case is very interesting. She drew a star map that she apparently saw while she was there, and there's some debate. It's a heated debate about how much it actually matches. I'm not actually going to speak on that, but it's interesting. There's a lot of interesting things about that case. That's another great one to look into. But you're right about the Obamas lending credibility to this issue, because they really do. And there's more and more politicians, current politicians and legislature happening behind the scenes, hopefully. As far as the word goes, there's legislature happening behind the scenes. So we can only hope, I guess.
The Congress made a public announcement. What was it, like a year, 2 years?
Yeah, they had a whole
said like, hey,
they had a whole thing. David Grush, James Fravor. They were all there telling their stories. To Congress, and I don't know. I mean, I'm sure you've been following all this. But
it's about a year ago.
It seemed like it fell on largely deaf ears to the public. It seemed like
that seems to be the common reaction. Actually, it's a little disturbing. I bring it up. I bring it up with people. I find it fascinating, and
absolutely.
People just be like nothing. I don't know if it scares people, which I know it scares people, but I don't know if that's why they react that way.
I was just thinking, like, life tends to imitate itself at all forms, right? Like,
absolutely.
Big, small, predation, prey. And at one point, the Europeans conquered the world, right? And the few indigenous writings that we have from their perspective, they describe these Europeans as God or alien like, so we found the worlds, we found the known world. So I think you're definitely right that there is a lot of fear there of the unknown, and like it's like, okay, like I don't have to think about that right now, but what if they are right?
And if what David Grush is saying is true, this is the biggest news story of our lifetime. And the fact that the news media is just brushing it off as like nonsense is a bad thing, because, we have someone at this level, that has a lot of, top secret information that he can't even share. And it's the problem in all these interviews. They make him out to look bad because he can't share top secret information, because there's a lot of things that could, get him in trouble, or that really the public shouldn't know about.
The public underestimates just how much his punishment for or giving up what he has sworn not to would be. I don't want to get into details, but it would be very, very bad. But yes, a lot of credit to David Grush coming forward. Everything he's done, I hope everything keeps going, keeps rolling. They keep rolling with the punches, But that happened about the testimony, or excuse me. Yes, they testified all about a year ago. What's come out recently, I don't know if y'all have seen, was another report from the DoD saying, no, we don't have any extraterrestrial technology, language very specific to extraterrestrial technology. And then they go on to say I gotta pull it up now. Sorry, I don't want to say the wrong thing.
I think it's interesting that you're tiptoeing around the words, because I always thought it was interesting that David Grush would say non-human biologics. So it's like, it kind of opens up. It's like, oh, is it genetically modified thing? Is it, like some, not maybe necessarily extraterrestrial, but, it could be extra dimensional, but yeah, it just opens up that we're not just talking about, it could be aliens, and it could be extraterrestrial, but it could be a number of things.
Right. Extra dimensional. Ultra-terrestrial is another thing, which is kind of like another word, I think, for extra-dimensional, that kind of...
What's the difference, though? What's the difference there?
Yeah, I was going to ask.
Not sure if I really know. Besides, it's that's the thing. We're just common. I'm a common guy. I don't know anything about extra dimensions, besides the fact that we live in 4 dimensions, 3 directionally, and the 4th being time.
Yeah,
we experience time as a linear progression, so that's one of our dimensions. If something were to inhabit a dimension past that, it would stand to reason they would have a less linear control of the 4th dimension being time. So that is another speculation as well. Time travel. Are these humans from the future? Or is it a genetically altered version of humans from the future?
That's a good point. If time travel will happen, why wouldn't there be some craft that is, comes back and flies above us? So it makes sense that time travelers could be possibly mistaken for UFOs or whatnot.
It's possible. Lots of sightings.
Have you seen this jellyfish UAP?
Yeah, that's been the newest thing. Also, there was, I think, some more military camera footage that came out about that. I don't remember where though.
I don't know if you guys can see my screen here. So there it is. And it's definitely
Super fast jelly.
yeah, right. Good Gorillaz song. That's true. I like to. Yeah, they'd probably take us down though if we played that over this, but it is very interesting what we're looking at. It's like a very still thing. It kind of floats across, you know.
Now I have a couple of questions come to mind, right? And I want to play the devil's advocate here as like maybe the role of the skeptic here. Like what's, we look at this and it's like, okay, images can be altered, things can be, in this day and age with technology and software, anything is possible. So like what does, apart from getting Barack Obama to produce a documentary, like what how do we lend credibility? Does Dave Grohl go into Congress? I'm sorry, does
Dave Grohl. Sorry, they got me.
Yeah, the same. Yeah, yeah. So does him going to Congress and saying this? Does this all of a sudden make everything that the History Channel's produced? Does that mean all of that stuff is legitimate? Like where are we on the continuum?
It's like anything. You have to look at the language he's using. The specific language he's using is, or the most inflammatory specific language he's using is non-human intelligence. So again, that can mean everything. So it's like the people who should be looking at this are the lawyers, and they are. I mean, that's a good thing. Like Danny Sheehan. Danny Sheehan's Luis Elizondo's lawyer, I think, or maybe used to be, might not be anymore, but that's where the specific language comes into play. Because, sorry, I'm trying to think if I can answer your question a little bit better. It's something you have to decide for yourself, honestly. Everybody has to decide. We're never going to have, and a lot of people feel this way, there's never going to be a point where the government's going to come and say, okay, yes, they exist, we know about this, we lied about this throughout history. It's going to have to be pulled. This is going to be like pulling teeth, like it has been throughout history, like the Watergate, all the other scandals that have happened, Vietnam, everything we've learned since then. It's going to be the lawyers pulling teeth, and they're pulling. I hope they keep pulling. You were also talking about how video evidence being potentially changed, edited, stuff like that. That's really where the military plays a huge role, because they have the sensor data, they have the radar data, they have the telemetric data that goes with it. Everything else, that any kind of data that can go with it, they have it. They control it.
Right. And it just,
but that's part of the problem. So,
and then this will be my last skeptic's corner question, right? Does our military gain any sort of advantage by trying to is this another sort of Cold War sort of thing, right? Are they using this as a way to, hey, look over there, while they do something else in the background?
Yeah, it's possible, but we've had many people within the military and within the intelligence community say, no, it's not, that there's no possible way it could be any of our adversaries. But we have some other evidence that backs up some of their claims. We have some of that data we've talked about, as well as some photographic data, the best being the Nimitz encounter and then the USS Theodore Roosevelt on the East Coast, 2013 and 2014, I think it was. The gimbal and go fast video. Those are some of the best videographic evidence we have. I'm not going to say I believe in aliens. I don't know if you want me to go ahead and give that spiel or not, but I don't necessarily know if I believe in aliens. I don't necessarily if I don't believe in aliens.
Well, go ahead. I mean, we're here to hear Steely Rush talk about aliens. So go ahead. What is?
Yeah, probably better for the podcast if you said you did believe in aliens.
Sure. And I think something's going on. I think things are going on that they're not telling us. I think they are wasting our money while they do it and lining certain people's pockets. That's where the real story is where what's happening to our tax dollars. And maybe I I've seen things. I've had a couple sightings. I continue to have some that make me question some things. Reality. I don't want to go into certain details.
I was just going to have you elaborate on that, like at least a little bit. I mean, you can't just tease and say that you've seen sightings and had some experiences and then not talk more about it.
There are quite a few people that do that, and I absolutely reserve the right to do that. Thank you. That's the fun thing about it. And I'll talk about Gary Nolan. He's a scientist who does this kind of the same thing, but he's had some experiences, and they make him uncomfortable to bring up. Not that mine make me uncomfortable, just like everybody else fears when they broach this topic. They fear being taken as a crazy person, and it's that simple. I'm not gonna leave you on that note. I'm gonna say there's a good chance people have died because of this topic. There's a good chance people are still dying because of this topic. We know aerospace companies have ethical issues. We know, I'm not going to talk specifics because I don't want a marker on my back, obviously. I'm not trying to get too woo or too serious or anything like that, but there's an employee for an aerospace company pretty local to where we are that just passed away. And there's some pretty big claims that he had about what the aerospace company was doing, not in relation to this topic, about in relation to aviation safety and cutting corners. But it does speak to some, he just passed away under very mysterious circumstances. So it does lend some skepticism to how credible some aviation companies can be or could not be, or in aerospace companies.
And that is a good point. I mean, all you said is true, and there's a lot of people whose lives have been destroyed because of this topic. And a lot of, you think about military contracts, and like someone's going to be working in this, and think about like someone's probably spend their whole life researching something they can't even tell anybody about.
And they would never be able to. I think I can consider myself a baby is when it comes to this. I'm protected. I'm not in the military. I'm not an aviation person. I'm not, I wonder, I truly wonder what's going on. I truly wonder what they know, what they're not telling us. I truly wonder the harm that's been done. I truly wonder where would we be as a society, possibly, if this topic wasn't as mysterious as it was. There's a lot of fingers that point to the Department of Energy. What kind of potential life-saving, energy-generating technologies are they hiding for profit for the fossil fuel industries and for other energy industries? There's a lot of heavy heart to it and stuff like that. But that's why I've always tried to approach it seriously. It's because that's what's always stood out to me. That's what I keep coming across is, there's some not great stuff here.
Yeah. Speaking of approaching things seriously, have you seen The Garden Alien?
Yes, I have seen this. Oh man, it looks so gnarly. It looks like a embryo of a gray or something like that. It's pretty crazy. But it's also very easy to get vegetables and other fruits and stuff to grow in certain shape. And
I think this was originally posted on a fungus subreddit on Reddit, if I'm not mistaken.
It could just be a funky fungus. Honestly, there's just no telling. That's one funky fungus, man.
That's one funky fungus.
Honestly, it looks a lot like, I think, some of the stories that come out of Brazil. You guys heard of a man named James Fox, a producer named James.
And yeah, Moment of Contact is such a good documentary going down to Brazil.
That's kind of what that reminds me of almost. Some of the drawings from that.
That's a good point. And yeah.
Gabe, you did some paranormal extraterrestrial research in
South, actually, right? In Argentina, where we believed that the first ever alien contact was made in Argentina, is what I was told when I was down there. And I actually went to and I can't remember the name of the mountain, but we went to this mountain to basically look for UFOs, UAPs, and we definitely found some there and got some good stories. And I was there with a translator. Shout out to Ariel, in Buscadores de la Verdad, Investigadores Paranormales. And yeah, we did a whole investigation there on UFOs, UAPs, and went to there's a museum there and actually tried to go there, but the lady was having lunch and said to come back on the weekend, but I had to come back to the United States, so I didn't get to go there. And it's kind of sucked. I went all the way, flew to Argentina. We went to this museum, the OVNI Museum, and we got there, and it's like, hey, this guy's from the United States, and she's like, oh, I'm having lunch. So no. So it was really sad, but yeah, it was a good time.
Must have been a real good lunch.
It must have,
And then bringing it back local. Is there any stories of abductions that you know of, or recent UFO sightings here in the upstate, in and around Greenville?
So the problem with that question is, I love checking out New Fork and MUFON all the time, and people post their stories all the time, and you would be amazed how many stories people just post on there. Again, there's credibility thing there, who knows, but there's an interesting one I've seen here where I live in Simpsonville of a football field sized UFO, square, rectangular, being seen. That one was pretty interesting to me. That was just a UFO sighting. There are some abductions stories. One from Piedmont, a gentleman was convinced he was a warrior from space, and he was being prepped to be a super warrior here on Earth, and that's what he's here and meant to do. Reincarnation from an alien race, I think.
Thank you for yours.
Yeah, hope that works out. Don't know if recruiters are really looking for that. Maybe they are.
Space Force, probably.
That would make sense to me. In all seriousness, so I, shout out, I guess, to the military. Not to the military industrial complex, but to the people who do good work in the military. Absolutely. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you for your service.
Absolutely. Yes, thank you. A lot of stories like that. A couple alien sightings. I like how they actually will group some of them. You'll get to see some by alien sightings. A lot less of those, actually. Far less of those than you think. But
what sort of aliens are they saying are being seen here in the upstate?
A couple typical grays and one mantis, I think, if I remember correctly. Have you heard many stories about the mantis aliens?
No.
We can start talking about different supposed
I am
species
a
also.
member of the Alien Bodies subreddit, so I do, kind of go check on that every once in a while.
Oh, so you're...
Well,
yeah, you're probably well educated.
I mean, I know a little bit.
What is the mantis? I am not well educated. What is the brief overview of a mantis? Like, I know what a gray is.
Right. Typically, mantis a lot of times they're seen in working with the grays, usually as working as oversight, overseeing the work, stuff like that. They look like a praying mantis, but big.
Right.
About our height, maybe it's a foot tall or something like that.
Interesting.
That pops up more than you would think.
We'll have to. We're actually recording with our cryptic expert, Derek Henderson, next week. So we need to make sure we bring up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think it's very possible that sometimes he mistakes, aliens for cryptids, and to be honest, like, what's the difference? If an alien race came here and started living like here, and then we saw one out in the woods, when does it become, okay, it was from another planet, but now it lives here? I mean, eventually your species changes where it resides. And some of them take
Absolutely.
on monstrous forms. I mean, not all of them look like the Greys or, this or that. What's to say that an alien isn't a hairy ape?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Evolution is weird, man.
Well, we see all the time, like island dwarfism, right? And like these changes, exactly like you said, the evolution. So these species, if they are landing here, like, they can absolutely morph over time to adapt to the environment.
I would point out this. If, from what we've talked about is going on with the DoD and what they're saying, if they're not extraterrestrials, NHI, they're actually extra-dimensional, ultra-terrestrial, something like that. I I would pose the question: what is the difference between a ghost and an alien at that point, or an extra dimensional being? Because I don't know.
Again,
I don't know how to
the lawyers
categorize
involved, right?
Yeah, I don't know how to categorize it at that point. So.
And actually, I like the term, UAP, unidentified anomalous phenomenon, because anomalous kind of opens it up even more, because it could be a ghostly entity, and a lot of this stuff may be closer to the same than we realize. Ghosts and aliens, alien abductions, where does the line blur?
When they first came out with the term UAP, it first meant unidentified aerial phenomena, but they realized that wasn't going to work either, because it's not broad enough for that reason as well, I think. But also, we're not just seeing them in the air. We see them in the ocean.
Or just sit on the land.
Do you guys get a lot of ghost stories from the sea or anything? I mean, I know like a lot of local stuff like that, but anything from people on boats, stuff like that?
I actually do a lot of paranormal research with fish, actually, because, if you think about it, like, fish have been around for, over 280 million years. Current estimates are there's 3.5 trillion fish in the ocean, and the lifespan of fish is not that long. So if you think about just how much death from, a fish and fish-type creatures, like that would be, is if there is ghosts of animals, fish would be one of the easiest ones to find and do some. So, I've done some Carillion photography is kind of what I'm trying to do a little more of in the research with it.
That's all. So I'd like to actually explore that a little bit, because there's so many sightings underwater, and there's a lot of leaker accounts, that you'll come across from, they post to 4chan and stuff like that. Some of them are interesting, but it's amazing it's amazing that a few of them really talk about the ocean and what is possibly happening on the floor of the ocean, what they're supposedly seeing and being part of the military and all that. But it really lines up with a lot of some of those ghost stories, I think, that I've heard about also. So a lot of lights in the ocean, stuff like that. This is another one I've heard of, but possibly something in the ocean making other craft. Where would be the easiest place for something that can survive? If something can survive out in space, we know it's harder to survive in the ocean, but if it can travel, thousands and thousands of miles, it could probably hide in our ocean. And you got to think that's probably one of the easiest places to hide here on this planet.
No doubt. No doubt, and everyone talks about, Atlantis, which, yes, of course, but there's just so many lost civilizations that were probably underwater or, lost kind of out in the oceans deep that we don't even know about. I mean, Bermuda Triangle, they talk about all this and that, but there's the ruins, and there's, the vastness of the oceans, the deepness of it. And I mean, James Cameron did a lot of work on this, sending submarines down and stuff, but there's really only, there's limits right now to what we can research with our technology currently. And I mean, it's just like space. I mean, we can only go so far, only go so, underwater, and yet a lot of people don't realize the vastness of our oceans. And that's a good point. There could be things that are on our Earth, so not extraterrestrial, but terrestrial beings underwater, like you're saying, the movers and whatnot. I mean, there could be a creature that is worse than an alien out there that is just under our water, and even on other planets in, our, as they talk about some of the moons on Saturn, or, these things could have some creatures there too, and you don't know what's out there really. And what can we see as humans? There's a lot of things that, what if there's a being that we can't see? I mean, go that way, right? So like, what's to say that there's a extraterrestrial or an ultra-terrestrial being that's, sitting around here with us, and we can't even use our tools to find them? And that's why I kind of, as a paranormal investigator, try to use the science technology. And if we can find equipment that can measure things like this, then that's what you want to research. And I'm sorry for rambling on here.
No, it's great. It's great stuff. We see a very limited spectrum of light. There's animals that see more than we do. There's a lot of animals that hear more than we do. There's many animals that smell more than it goes on and on. That's a whole other. I'm not even going to touch that. Let's touch something else. I was about to say, there's a lot. It seems that we're not quite cut out for this planet for in some ways. But I don't necessarily believe, that we're aliens. There's a lot of speculation there. Some of them have some. There's you got to be careful because some of that has some racist actual origins. So I just have to be careful about some of that. Also, just be disclaimer. Yeah, and I could get into that some more if anybody wanted to, but I just try to be very careful when I talk about it.
Well, we're getting in here. I'm thinking, Steely, we're gonna have you back on sometime. Before we wrap up, though, do you have? If someone's listening to this, they want to find out more. Do you have sources that you like? Do you have researchers, people that you follow? Where can people go to learn more?
So, I would like people to look up a couple people that are currently working for this subject, trying to bring more light to it, bring more knowledge of it. David Grush is a big one. Gary Nolan, Ross Colhart, who's a journalist, Avi Loeb, Luis Elizondo, and a lot of these people are saying a lot of these things. They're saying stuff is coming. I hope they bring it. That's what I say. I hope people have an open mind and an open heart about the subject. It might look a lot messier than aliens. It might look a lot messier than people who time travel. We have no idea what's going to happen if this ever comes to light. It has the potential to change the world. Don't be blindsided. That is what I would tell people. This might be an actual thing that it's entirely possible now. It wasn't possible in anybody's mind 10 years ago. A lot's changed in 10 years. I would say that.
Yeah, thanks for coming, and definitely check out his video game streams. We didn't even get to talk about video games. So
yeah, plug the stream.
We play games. We certainly do every Tuesday. We do Lethal Company. I play games every now and then. I'm working on some more. We might do some more Nintendo games here coming up soon. Deuce is on with us. He plays every Tuesday with us when we do Lethal Company. It's a blast.
Yeah, and you do spoopy Sundays, spooky Sundays.
We do
right?
Spoopy Sundays sometimes, and check out the TikTok channel, Steely Rush. There's some good clips on there.
Do you ever play Luigi's Mansion?
We were streaming some Luigi's Mansion.
I told you, man. People want the Luigi's Mansion.
We're gonna continue Luigi's Mansion for sure. So, but hope to see a lot of people there. Maybe anybody.
You mentioned a lot of good names, and you had already mentioned James Fox earlier, but I just love his documentaries. Want to shout him out again, and also Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp. They do a lot of good stuff too. And Weaponize is a pretty good podcast to keep up with the latest UAP news and whatnot. So,
if you have a chance to talk to your legislator, please encourage them to keep an open mind about the UAP subject.
And if you see a UFO, report it. The NUFO, National UFO Reporting Center, and UFORC, as well as MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network. And MUFON has a place that you can click. If you've been abducted by aliens, you can actually type, kind of tell your field story, which is you were mentioning earlier.
And if you are in the upstate area of South Carolina or in and around Greenville and you have a paranormal experience, please reach out to the True Searchers Paranormal Investigators. We'd love to hear your story. And if you want to come on the podcast, and you want to talk about your experience, we'd love to have you.
But also, let's not limit it to Greenville. We're willing to talk to anybody if you have a story that's worth sharing.
Absolutely.
So, thanks to our guests.
Thank you so much, Steely.
Thanks to you for having me. This was a blast. Like I said, I'm not an expert, but I've been digesting this for a while, and I've been trying to digest every bit of it that's out there. That's the only thing I can really claim. So,
and we like to end our podcast by, I'll say the truth is paranormal, and if you could say be a searcher, does that work for you?
Yeah.
All right. The truth is paranormal.
Be a searcher. That's it. That's all we got for today's episode. Thank you for joining us. Please like and subscribe, and don't forget to follow us on social media at Truth Searchers. See you next time.